The mighty and majestic Gateway Arch, the shining monument of St. Louis, Missouri, the nearly 200-meter-high symbol of the opening of the U.S.'s western frontier back in the 1800s.
Century Riverfront welcomed tens of thousands of immigrants from around the world.
But a different kind of bridge between the west and east is just as iconic to the city.
Some people in the different states, they come here for the support.
The St. Paul sandwich, that is, a staple of any Chinese restaurant menu in St. Louis.
Some onion, white onion.
The outer layers are as American as it gets, 2 pieces of plain white bread slathered with creamy mayonnaise. But it's the inside of this sandwich that's uniquely Chinese American. Egg foo young, a deep-fried foundation of egg, onions, bean sprouts, and often topped with chicken or shrimp. A savory sandwich that's light on the wallet, partly why it's endured for centuries.
It's become the living legacy of this tradition of the Chinese immigration to St. Louis.
Christopher Allen Gordon is Director of Library and Collections at the Missouri Historical Society, where a depth of documents exists about the sandwich's history.
And they actually had an egg foo young sandwich on this menu here.
Christopher, look at how much it costs. Let's see. 50 cents.
50 cents, yeah.
Those were the days.
Those were the days.
It was a savvy business tactic by Chinese immigrants who first arrived in St. Louis in the mid-1800s.
Restaurateurs, Chinese immigrant restaurateurs, realized that they could certainly become more successful and appeal to a broader public by situating themselves close to very popular theaters. What you might call food of convenience, things that were cheap, easy for working people to afford and working men to easily get their hands on.
Now it's not just working class savoring the sandwich. Among one of the city's first examples of fusion. George Mahey is dining editor for St. Louis Magazine.
St. Louis probably has half a dozen iconic foods, and this is probably the least known. So one of the theories was that a place called Park Chop Suey in the 1970s, they get the credit for inventing it. And it just so happens that the owner was from St. Paul, Minnesota, so that's why that happened. It's cheap, it's filling, it's easy to negotiate, and it's a little greasy, which makes it pretty darn good.
Hey, deep fried in grease. What's not to love, right?
It does have a cult following. Oh, good. Here, keep that on.
Qui Tran is one of St. Louis's hottest chefs and founded My Lee Restaurant, which also features a handful of versions of the St. Paul, including beef and ham.
You grew up with it, so it's very nostalgic for me.
Tran and his family escaped their native Vietnam during the war and arrived in St. Louis, where they set up a Chinese restaurant.
Back in '82, we had a little chop suey on the north side.
That's where they learned about the popularity of the St. Paul sandwich among the other Chinese restaurants and followed suit by offering it. The family would later find better success setting up My Lee, which incorporated more Vietnamese specialties. But they chose to keep some Chinese staples like the St. Paul.
Food for me, because of the way I grew up, has a very different meaning. It's a meaning of love and, understanding. That's what it means to me. It's a bridge I love to cross, sometimes too much.
Should we toast?
A sometimes messy bridge between East and West, many here are gladly keeping intact. Francis Coe, CGTN.
I can get my muscles in there.
St. Louis, Missouri.